Ivan finally felt prepared for the worst. If the Sabbath was going to come between him and his superior officers, and he knew it would, then he must face the problem squarely. Whether or not he would survive as a Seventh-day Adventist Christian in the Soviet Army would be determined in the next few hours. Ivan bowed his head in prayer one last time as he boldly strode to the main field of the military commons, where all the recruits assembled every morning for basic drill. He had given little thought of how exactly he was going to pull the whole thing off, or even what he would say. But he had to step out in faith. This much Ivan knew. Right now, in this public place, he was going to make a statement declaring his beliefs as a Christian. He felt impressed that this would be the best way to let his superiors know about his status as a Christian and a Sabbath keeper. But Ivan had other reasons for such a bold move. It was very likely that none of the hundreds of other young recruits in the army base had ever heard the name of Jesus before. In one fell swoop, Ivan would be able to tell them the gospel story and about Jesus soon coming. Gathering up what courage he could muster, Ivan raised his voice and announced in clear, trumpet-like tones, "Today is the Sabbath of the Lord our God." A group of passing soldiers stopped and looked at him. "Men, did you know that Jesus Christ is the Son of God? That he created this world in 6 days and rested on the seventh?" But men rebelled against him and chose to sin against heaven, and our world has been a place of sorrow and sickness and death ever since. Suddenly, Ivan noticed a jeep approaching from the officers' quarters. It was coming so fast that snow was shooting out from its back wheels like bullets from a machine gun. Within seconds, the jeep pulled up at the back of the crowd. The driver got out, but an army officer remained seated in it. I was close enough to see that this man in the jeep was a high-ranking colonel. The bars and stripes on his shoulders and chest were enough to make any soldier quiver. Ivan knew that he should be afraid of what was coming next, but strangely enough, he wasn't. His voice was steady and strong as he continued talking, and his knees didn't even tremble. He guessed what this officer must be thinking. How is it possible that this young man in the Russian army dares to speak of God? The Soviet Union is a communist state with an atheistic political platform. Ivan took a deep breath and gathered his wits about him. None of this mattered. A firm resolve to complete his task spurred him on to finish what he had started. He had laid everything out before the Lord and had thought things through clearly. If he were taken away to languish in some military outpost, it wouldn't matter. If he were shot, there would be others to tell young soldiers in the army about the gospel. God would take care of everything. If God's work for Ivan was already done in the short space of time that he had been on the military base, then Ivan was satisfied. He was ready to do whatever God should ask of him next, and go wherever he might lead. However, if God's work for Ivan was only beginning, then all the cold in Siberia, all the generals in the military, and all the bullets in the Soviet Union could never stop him. If you want to find out what happened, you're going to have to read the rest of this story. Dare to Stand Alone by Bradley Booth is an incredible story of an 18-year-old Seventh-day Adventist who was determined to be a missionary for God in the Soviet Army. The year was 1946. When communism in Moldova was at its peak, the church was severely oppressed, but God's message still had to go out, and God was raising up people to do it. I highly recommend this book. It is a message that all modern-day Christians, especially young people, need to hear. To see someone going through the same experiences and struggles every day that we do in serving God, and to see how God used him mightily because of his faithfulness, it's encouraging and it's very inspiring. I highly recommend this book. It's about 128 pages, a really good read. It took me about an hour and a half to finish it. If you want to read it, you can go to Adventist Book Center. It's about $12.99, or you can order it at autumnhousepublishing.com, or you can borrow it from the Leomar Library or from myself.